Zed in Life is brought to you by ZN, the OG digital agency in Brussels.
And live from Brussels, it's ZN Live. Welcome to this episode 407. That's right, that's 407. And it's the last episode of ZN Live because next year we are launching the ZNL podcast, which is an extension and a transformation of this amazing show that you love so much. So I'm Phil Weiss, your host, CEO and founder of ZN, and I'm very excited to have an amazing panel of people and one avatar today. So with us, we have Gaia, who is our marketing whiz, who puts together a lot of these shows and has been working on the trends, because today we're going to talk about exciting trends. Then we have Irem, who is our fantastic movie buff, expert in all things digital, overseeing all our client relations and making everything happen in the back. And she's got a Christmas jumper, even though we are after Christmas, or are we? This is the last episode of 2024. So we're going to talk about the trends that we're going to be covering in a downloadable document that we'll share with you. But today we're very excited about to talk what's happening. Now, if you have been looking, you might see something very strange. Jesus is here with us, and Jesus, who is our COO and also resident artist and also VR and AR and AI expert, the king of the acronyms. Well, he's not here once, he's here twice. So, Jesus, you're going to talk about the first trend that you are clearly most excited about because you're wearing your Vision Pros and we can see you twice. So tell us, Jesus, who the hell is that weird looking avatar of yours?
It's a bit creepy, I know, and a lot of people are laughing about this when they use it, because it's true that it's not real. So it makes it's almost real, but it's at the same time a bit creepy. It's not exactly as you are. So then it looks a bit strange. But anyway, the point is, this is the avatar of Vision Pro. It's a bit better than as it was like some months ago, but still a bit creepy. The point is that you can see that you can join calls or video calls through the avatar, and you can see me here as an avatar, but also on the side you can see me with the headset put. So you can see actually how it's very, very cool the way that it recognizes the gestures. Look the mouth and everything, all like this. So it's very good. It's very accurate of how it connects. Also, it can show the hands when you're showing it in front of you. You see, so, and it looks quite like my hands more or less. So it's really, really cool how it is done, but still a bit creepy. So it's true that we try to have some calls with the avatar, Phil, but it was a bit weird that you were talking to the avatar. So that's why we still use video conference.
So Jesus, what is your prediction for 2025 with VR and AR? How important is it going to be? It's no longer the hype cycle anymore because that's been taken over by AI. But do you predict things moving and developing and happening? We're working on a lot of projects in that space. So despite the hype being over, it still seems to be a thing. What do you think is going to happen in AR, VR?
Well, starting with the AR, VR, there are different news that are appearing at the end of the year that looks like very promising for the next year. For example, there is the AR or XR experience on Android. So basically, Google people are starting to get into this. So they're starting to put like a platform that is going to provide the possibility of using VR and AR, considering headsets and all that. That's really great news. And also on the other hand, we have seen Samsung that is like creating a headset that is very near to the ones of the of Apple Vision. So it looks like the industry is still developing. There are maybe the new ones, the new Apple Vision Pro that are going to come maybe at the end of next year. That's what lately we're seeing with more features, maybe with a much more strong capabilities and all that. So all that is going to happen on the VR, so things are still moving. Hopefully more applications for the Vision Pro that are coming. And in the meta space, there are plenty of things that are doing. There is also all the story of the Ray-Ban glasses that came out that are starting to sell a lot. So a lot of people are using it. So we're going to start little by little seeing people using headsets or glasses in different situations for different applications. That on that space, we believe is going to be the case. Yeah.
So very interesting. I think what we're going to see is indeed more development, more tools, more platforms, but less hype. And it's actually going to be focused on what's the reality. And, you know, when I see you with your avatar form, I can imagine that this is going to be very easy to recreate in AI with AI tools. We're going to come to AI in a minute, but I want to jump to so this was our first trend, AR, VR. It's still a thing. It's going to get better, and it continues. Now, moving on to our favorite topics about messages. Of course, we're a communication agency. Messages matter, but they matter more than ever. Irem, what is your prediction around messaging?
I think about messaging and also the platforms where these messages are shared or stored is going to be quite important in 2025 in discussions. And I guess the focus on digital independence is going to be key. We started hearing about this quite a lot recently. Owning your message is going to become more and more critical. What we have seen this year with happening with the social media platforms. I think for brands, organizations, even for individuals, I think it's important to have a self-reliant digital ecosystem where you can rely on the platform where your messages are shared, and having control through the platform on your messaging. We've seen this year organizations increasingly prioritizing their own websites and digital platforms as the central hub for engagement. Also, of course, coupled with some social media communication, but I think people are taking control back. That's why podcasts are maybe becoming more and more popular. We will talk about that in a minute. And also newsletters. We've clearly seen a surge on newsletter subscriptions, our own as well. So I think this is going to be more and more clear and important. And I think over-reliance on a single platform can be risky. We've all seen this happen, and we've discussed a lot about it when it came to Twitter X. So it's very important to diversify your channels, be it your own channels, but also social media, so that you are not killed by the algorithm changes that happen on a regular basis. So I think this is going to be an important thing for us as communicators to take into consideration for 25.
Yeah, so I have basically the message is all about digital independence day. You've got to stay independent. You've got to make sure that you're not controlled by another platform, that you have your own messaging. The second thing I take from what you're saying is kind of a back to the future message, because we basically go back to websites, to newsletters, to emails. You see what I'm doing there? Movie references here. I hope you like it. So basically, and that leads to the diversification you talked about, and we're talking about platform hopping, learning to experiment with different platforms to see which one is the right one for you and where you can commit. And of course, we have Blue Sky emerging in the bubble, which seems to be a channel that you need to look at quite seriously, because it's actually gained some momentum. We'll see if it continues. If it continues for the first quarter, then I think it's an indication that it's here to stay. Now, so trend number one is AR/VR. Number two is owning your message. Number three is this platform hopping diversification. A fourth trend, I think, which is quite critical, is the idea that channels, well, the medium is the message, is the old saying. This has become truer than ever, with channels becoming politicized, or meaning the choice of a channel is already a choice. You hear, obviously, X has moved to a alt-right channel for Trump supporters. That's been the shift that Elon Musk pushed it into. Meta has decided not to be political, so Threads is kind of pushing back on political messages. So if you don't want to see politics, you go to Meta and to Threads. If you want to see alt-right politics, you go to X. And if you want progressive politics, you go to Blue Sky. So we're seeing this fragmentation of ecosystems and basically where you go to communicate is already half the message, and LinkedIn being the kind of professional corporate space. So choosing your tool is already a part of your message. This is quite interesting. And then the other thing which is connected to that is what I'm calling Polpod, which I'm not sure is a terribly good name, but it's the politics of podcasting. And this is really from the US election, where the final interview that Donald Trump gave on the Joe Rogan podcast was said to have reached hundreds or tens of millions of young male audience that he was trying to reach, perhaps giving him the edge at the end of the election. But the fact that throughout the election, Donald Trump went after these new media representative who have these huge audiences, has basically shown that traditional media is no longer the place that dictates the agenda. It's not about money. It's not about media. It's about getting the right message with the right channel. And in this case, podcasts made all the difference. So another Back to the Future, podcasts are back. So that's very interesting. And we're seeing other kind of political mavericks appearing in Europe. We have the MEP Phidias, we've talked about many times, a YouTuber who is talking about Europe in a kind of difficult to pigeonhole way, because he's not clearly decided which party he belongs to, but he is getting a new audience to kind of get interested in politics, which I think that in itself is a good thing. And then, of course, we've had recently the election in Romania canceled because of TikTok misinformation. First time this happens in history, but probably not the last time. And then we have phenomenons that we'll come back to later with your reference, Gaia, but it was almost a brat summer, but not quite, given what happened in the US election. Another trend I want to briefly touch on is the importance of micro and macro influencers. So as we've seen over time, and this is very true of the bubble, influencers don't have to have 1 million followers to be effective and relevant. In fact, they can have 1,000 followers, as long as these followers are the right people, the right policymakers, the right journalists, then they can shape a conversation. So understanding these micro niches, these very small communities on Blue Sky, on X, on LinkedIn, that's critical to building powerful stories and to really build from your event to a conversation with the community, and vice versa. Now, another trend for those micro influencers, some of them that we know very well, who are on Instagram, they're using video, and we heard a lot about this in our EU influencer event, where I think one of our opening speakers was saying, it's all going to be about video. So Gaia, what do you think about video?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. Being the social media geek that I am, this is obviously the trend to highlight. Video content obviously has taken the digital world by storm, and this is because of its ability to convey complex messages and complex information in a concise and engaging way. And so take this as your sign to invest in short videos content and this type of content in 2025, because it will definitely be necessary for both individuals and businesses alike. And thank you, Phil, for the broad summer reference. That was very cool.
I don't know what history will say about the Brat Summer, because it was a big thing, and now who knows what it really meant in the scheme of things. We're going to end with one. Well, we're not quite going to end, but the trend that really kicked off last year and that has not really stopped being a massive story is, of course, AI. So AI started with ChatGPT with a bang at the end of 22, at the end of 23, and really remained a story throughout the year. It's become a subject of discussion for every consultant under the sun. And Jesus has been having a lot of fun doing trainings and workshops this year. I did some last year. So Jesus, what's your kind of sense of where AI is heading in 25? Are we getting AGI?
So basically, It's 2 years actually. Yes, you were right. It was the end of 2022, so it's been already 2 years that we're having
Yeah.
AI after that
Oops.
explosion. And the point is that 2025, there are different things that I presume are going to happen, but it's true that it's very difficult to preview what is going to happen because things are happening sometimes so quick and that we don't expect. So, for example, one of the things that we're seeing is that there are more and more integration of different AIs in one. We were used to see, for example, an AI that was creating visuals, and other one that was about text, and another one that was about creating video. More and more, we see platforms that are starting to combine all of them. So we get then an AI that can serve or even start combining different things and going from sound to visual, for example. And so those things we're going to see it more and more, which is actually part of what is in the roadmap that OpenAI put in place. Another thing that I see and that actually has been part of all the conversations that we were having in the last quarter is that we see more and more an increase of associations and organizations being interested of implementing AI on the organizational level. You see, until now it was more individual. So people that were starting to use and learn about how to use AI on their daily basis or working or for personal use, but more and more we see organizations that are interested of how can we implement that on the organization. So establishing some specific systems and processes, so like this the AI is bringing value. And that's something that I presume that during this year is going to be much more developed. Also this month that is finishing now is going. We saw that Sora was appearing in the US, and it's something that I'm sure that is going to develop much further. There are already a lot of other AI tools that are trying to get at the level of Sora, obviously, with maybe cheaper, lower price. So we're going to see more and more the use of that on the audiovisual space. So I think those are key ones. Then agents, maybe too early still, but as I said at the beginning, maybe suddenly they come with a surprise, and we see that there are agents that are starting to decide and make things much further. We saw the pro version of OpenAI that we got also this month is a step forward to that. They are much more intelligent. It's taking longer time to think, but then the result is much more accurate, even on questions or tasks that require a stronger thinking or a stronger logic behind that. So we see that is already something that is happening, and in 2025 may happen much further.
Yeah, so I think just on the AI front, we're going to continue to see upgrades, new platforms, new tools, because there's a basic massive investment cycle that these companies have to prove what they've done. And there's also, I think, still a lot of kind of maybe smaller innovations, but also I expect some kind of significant ones to happen. And I think what we're seeing is the practical use of AI in very specific areas. I mean, we've seen it in content, we've seen it in design. We're going to see it a lot in the creation of videos now with Sora and all the other things. And I think we're going to see potentially the cost of creating certain videos go down dramatically, because suddenly you can do something. And for the EU, that's quite important, because all these associations don't have the budgets to do a lot of big shoots. So if they can use AI to tell a story, and that the story doesn't look cringe, I think that's going to be used a lot. We've seen how we can use it for certain voiceovers. We've seen, how it can be done, how it can be used to create compositions, but of course, text, translations, adaptations, summarizations. I think all these things are possible, but we're not really used to it yet. It hasn't fully kind of come into the way we work. I think that's going to happen next year. I also think that it's possible that we see AGI happen not because, not the Terminator robot that takes over the world, but the fact that we don't really know the definition of AGI. And so it will be there, and people will say, okay, that's effectively a computer that has capabilities of a human or better. That's one definition of AGI, which I think we are very, very close to. The new version of OpenAI's €200 per month subscription, I think, has capabilities that are extraordinary. So I think we're going to see that. Now, in terms of the transformation of organizations, I suspect that that's going to be the beginning of the cycle. I think that we're going to see deployments in specific departments saying, okay, we found a use case. Now let's start using it for this. But it's still going to be piecemeal. And I think organizations like Microsoft and Copilot will start getting those basic tools really baked in across all of your workflow. And I believe, by the way, Jesus, agents are definitely going to be there. I'm 100% sure. Maybe, first level agents. So, create that email, reply to that, book a meeting. I think that there's almost no doubt that's going to happen. And I've even seen demos where it can go make a payment. I don't know if you want to give OpenAI your credit card information, but and so, please book me a flight to this place. Looks for the flights, finds the flight, books the flight, confirms, sends you the information, which then becomes the beginning of an entire new workflow. Since so I'm sure that that'll be a reality in 2025. We have two bonus trends that we also have in our report. One is EU regulation around data responsibility. Now, EU regulation on AI and digital matters is a massive topic, which a lot of people cover in extensive details. It will continue. Regulation will continue. There's a big pushback from the US that's going to happen. Trump is not a fan of EU AI regulation, and with people like Elon Musk and the entire kind of Silicon Valley tech bros now in the government, I think we're going to see a lot of conflict there. And we've already seen that companies were starting to say, look, we're not going to deploy our Apple Intelligence in Europe until we're comfortable that regulations are compliant. We're not going to do certain things. Google has not deployed some of its AI facilities. And so I think what they're trying to say is, look, we're not going to make Europe a priority because of that regulation, which I think is going to be much stronger in 25 because of the kind of counterweight that we're going to see in the US. So I believe there's going to be a kind of reckoning of how far you want to go with legislation if you don't control the technology and if you don't control the players, because they're basically operating out of the US. And the final trend that we've identified is the digital pollution, or more politely, eco-responsibility of digital channels. I don't think this is something that we've been thinking about a lot in the past. You have a website, you send emails, you don't really see that as a major pollutant. With AI, we've started to understand that AI consumes a phenomenal amount of energy, CO2 emissions, etc. The bigger the models, the more energy it consumes. And so essentially, we're hearing companies saying they're going to build nuclear plants just to be able to run their server farms. And I think that's just the new reality. So what we're going to see is that people realize these models don't run for free. They don't run without massive energy costs. And there's a responsibility that people need to take. How we approach that is going to be, again, a very complicated discussion. Everything next year will be seen in the lens of a Trump administration with Elon Musk around and Silicon Valley pushing things. So all of this is going to reshape these debates. So I think it's going to be a constant kind of conversation. The other thing is that Elon Musk and Trump both love the attention of a debate. So they're going to tweet about these things. We're never going to know what's happening until it happened. So expect a lot of discussions around regulation, around all things tech and AI. So I think that's our overview of key tech trends that have been put together by some of our amazing team members, including Gaia and some other people, and Marcella as well, who's been working on this. So we're going to share some of this. You can download our insights, and of course, we'd love to hear your views. Before we close this edition, as I said, the final edition of ZN Live, so that we move to the ZNL podcast next year. And we close the year. Let's have some recommendations. I think Gaia, what is your recommendation?
Yeah, so my recommendation for today would be the Call Her Daddy podcast run by Alex Cooper, and especially her episode with Kamala Harris. I think that's a really interesting case study, and in the way that Kamala Harris portrays herself, in the way that the format of the podcast is. She's the first ever politician to join this kind of podcast. So I really suggest you watch that, and please let me know what you think about it, because I think it's super interesting.
Excellent. Irem, you have a selection for us, a movie recommendation or book or something to see? You're on mute.
Sorry. I'm going to be a bit lighthearted for this last episode of the year to wrap up the year. My recommendation for you to go enjoy yourself at the Brussels Christmas market. Christmas is over, but the cheer of Christmas is not yet. I think it's open until the 5th of January or something, so there's still time to go and discover. Maybe it will be a bit less crowded now, but yeah, go enjoy some mulled wine, get some nice, delicacy from all the different huts, and enjoy yourself before the year ends.
Excellent. Jesus, you have a series recommendation.
Yeah, actually, it's something that I've been watching during the holidays and that I was enjoying because I read the book some time ago, and as I was watching the movie in Spanish, it's very cool to see it actually in Spanish in Latin American with the language of that. So that it was really beautiful to see like that.
You have to tell us the title. You have to tell us the title.
That's what I'm saying. It's the 100 Years of Solitude. So from the novel of Gabriel Garcia Marquez, I watched it on Netflix. Really cool, really nice, well done, and still kind of all this magic view of the reality and all that that was on the book has been beautifully brought to the screens. So that's my recommendation.
Great, and I'm going to finish with a slightly less lighthearted. It's a podcast because obviously 25 is the year of the podcast. So this is sponsored or supported by LinkedIn, and it's called The Anxious Achiever. That's the podcast name. And this particular podcast is called We Need to Be Anti-Fragile, which I think we all need to be in 2025 for sure. Anti-fragile is a concept developed by Nicholas Nassim Taleb, author of The Black Swan, but also author of Anti-Fragile. And it's the idea that to be successful in this new age of uncertainty, you need to not only be resilient, which is to be robust and resist crisis, but anti-fragile means that you get stronger with the crisis. And the two people speaking in this podcast are psychologists and coaches that help sports people or business executives to understand how you can reframe a crisis into an opportunity for growth. And if you find the way to do it, then you can basically strengthen yourself and your organization with each new challenge, crisis, transformation that you go through. So I think that's my takeaway for all of our clients, but for our team as well, and for the future of organizations in 2025 and beyond. So I think with that, we can say in advance, Happy New Year, belatedly Merry Christmas. And I hope that you all have a fabulous 2025, and we will see you on the other side. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.